I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Lowe's knows how to set off your July 4th with savings. Right now, buy one, get one free on select one-coat coverage interior paint via Visa gift card rebate. Plus, get two select 2 or 2.5 quart red, white, and blue annuals for just $10. Hurry, these July 4th deals won't last long. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/9. Selection varies by location. While supplies last, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for more details.
If you love entertainment, current events, and Hollywood, don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators today. Today, we have a special guest.
Christopher Peyton, but known really to my 12 fans as a Peyton, just because I chose my surname as a artist name many, many years ago. So you can call me Peyton.
Peyton, welcome.
Like Peyton Manning, but it's my, it's my last name. Yeah, spelled the same way. Yeah.
I love that. So I really love going back to the beginning. I always say that, the beginning charts our trajectory in life, our little habits we pick up along the way, follow us into our adulthood. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like? And when did you find your way into the creative space that you're doing now? Or how did you find your way?
Well, I grew up in Virginia, just outside Washington, DC.
Yeah.
And my dad is a minister, preacher, in the evangelical, Christian world. So I grew up in that space. His dad and his granddad were also preachers. There were like 22 preachers, missionaries, evangelists on my dad's side of the family. So come from this long line of that kind of, quite extreme in a way, but also, a very just kind of a very spiritual sort of upbringing, and so a whole family that's pretty much from the South. So that was my childhood. But then I left. I studied. I went to England to do part of my undergraduate, and then went back to do a master's and moved to South America and taught English literature for a couple of years in a university in Cali, Colombia. Crazy. Right. And then moved to New York. And, I kind of, I resisted. In fact, I think now I guess I kind of have a real job for the first time in about 30 years. But really for a long time after, getting back from Colombia, I resisted getting an actual job because I wanted to be an artist. I didn't really know. I had been singing all my life since I was a kid, but in church, in gospel music growing up, and continued to do that, in where I went to college, which was a small Christian academy in Tennessee, and everybody had come from the church, so they'd all been raised on Jesus and cornbread, and they could all sing. So I had that kind of upbringing, but I moved to England, and life took over. I've been, really a resident of the UK now for like 20, almost 25 years.
Nice.
And now I'm living between Germany and London. But it was really, really, honestly, so random. I mean, should give hope to anybody who thinks it's too late or doesn't quite know what they want to do, but they know they want to be a creative. Because I was waiting tables in London, and I was like 33 at the time, and I wrote a song. It was the first song I'd ever written. I hadn't been singing for years because I kind of left the church. I still held on to my strong spiritual, connections to whatever the creator is that created all of this. But I left all of that. And when I did, I stopped singing because for me, music, I had never really approached music from any other way than just about, it was really, a kind of spiritual praise sort of thing for me. I didn't think of music outside of gospel. And so, and then, I don't know, I was on a plane going to see a friend in the States, and on the way, I wrote this song, 3 verses, a bridge, and a chorus. It's called A Higher Place. And I remember, like, I used to love the Jeffersons. It was like growing up, it was one of my favorite musicians. And I loved the theme song. We're moving on up to the east. Remember that?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I kind of got inspired by that little hook, and I used that. We're moving on up, but then the song goes on to a higher place. Anyway, and I came back from that trip, started looking to find a producer. Like, I didn't know anything about dance music. I didn't know anything about anything, but I found this producer, somebody recommended randomly. He recorded the song with me. He sent it to a label that was the hot house music label in London at the time that did that kind of uplifting, soulful house music. They signed the record.
Wow.
This was in 2003. They signed me. This is when I went from being Christopher Peyton to just Peyton, because they're like, well, we need an artist name. And I'm like, well, I didn't want to call myself something that wasn't, make something up. I said, well, what about Peyton? They said, that's a great name.
Yeah.
It'll look good on a record. Could be a guy, could be a girl. Perfect. And they released this record, which went out into the world of dance music that I honestly had very, very little knowledge of. And it went to the top of the charts all over the world in the dance charts. Wow. And it launched what's been now really a full-time career in music ever since. Isn't that crazy? It is wild. It is so there were so many acts of sort of seemingly random kind of just, I don't know, acts of just total nonsensical, but I'm sure it all was part of somebody's plan,
Yeah. I mean, I think, but the fact that you never stopped, believing in that, in the goal, what you wanted. I think
the funny thing is, I just knew that I wanted, it wasn't like I was pursuing a career in music even, specifically.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I hadn't thought of myself outside of the kind of, once I kind of disconnected from the church, I stopped singing, but I don't know, but I wanted to be a writer. I was, which of course, as a singer, I have been a writer because I've written, from that point on, I was like, oh, that was my first song. I thought they're like, okay, well, have you got another one? I'm like, no. And they're like, well, can you write another anthem, like A Higher Place? And I was like, what is an anthem? I remember, I mean, what does that mean? Isn't that funny? And they're like, well, it means it's anthemic. And that record kind of went on to be a kind of classic in the world of house music. And
love that.
And turns out it was an anthem. And I'm like, oh, okay, I could try. So I wrote my second song, and I wrote my third. And, here 20 some years later, albums and, on this label, Revival House Project, which started during the pandemic, that I co-founded. This has taken over my life now. And it's great. I get to be kind of in a different role. I'm one of the artists, but I'm also now getting to kind of put a lot of my time and energy behind other artists, and which is really nice. It's kind of nice. It's a very self-involved life being an artist. Everything's about you. It's quite nice to be able to kind of celebrate and push and use your kind of knowledge and experience to help other artists who are on their journey.
And how long did How long did it take to finalize the track in the studio? This particular mix.
This record, so it came about. I mean, in January when the wildfires, were happening in Los Angeles, and I kind of switched off from the news, because there was so much news going on that was so bad that I kind of was like, it was just, I can't look at it anymore. It was getting in my spirit. And I thought, I can't. But the wildfires were like, oh my God, I've dear friends that live in LA.
Yeah,
people that were being affected by that. I couldn't just switch that off. And I just remember thinking like, well, you always feel so helpless. You see all this stuff going on. Of course, there's stuff going on all over the world, and you think, well, I can't. You just think I can't do anything about any of it. But I thought this was something. I thought maybe we could do something. I mean, it's probably not going to change the world, but it's just God. I mean,
with so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
If for nothing else, just for the act of doing something positive and bringing people together and giving them the opportunity to do something positive. And I love this, there's this record. It's an old classic house record. It's been around for a long time, originally by a DJ who's unfortunately now passed, but his name was Ian Carey, sung by amazing vocalist Michelle Chiavarini. And this record's been around for a long time in the dance world. And I had covered it before on an album in a more acoustic way. And I thought maybe this could be a record that we could recreate, get all of these, I'll call all the people I can, and even the ones I don't have numbers for, just try to get as many of the dance music artists that I, can reach and see if they would maybe be willing to get involved. And, the producer, James F. Reynolds, who produces all the music for the Revival House Project, loved the idea. He was really on board right away. So it was one of those things where I kind of thought, it turned out to be an absolutely epic project with an enormous amount of work. At one point I was going, did I really sign up for this voluntarily? Really? But, I managed in the end, people, like, oh, I've got the number for so-and-so. And what should I call, what about that artist? And everybody was just on, hands on deck. And we ended up with 24 artists,
wow,
which is really an amazing thing. Of course, they're spread all over the world, but I think we booked a day in the studio in London, and it was about half of them that were able to make it to the studio in London. Coming from different places, some of them from other parts of the country. But, we just blocked it for this whole day from like 8 a.m. until like midnight or something. So that there's plenty of kind of time. That way, if people had other things going on, maybe they can just drop in for a couple of hours, but there was plenty, and so throughout the day, artists were just dropping in when they could and recording, we recorded different people on the verses and stuff and made those decisions later and broke them all down. But, and then everybody else recorded themselves remotely. I've got an artist in Sweden, others in Sydney, others in LA, and then they filmed themselves, sent their vocals. And my God, James Reynolds had the absolutely gargantuan task of taking all of these vocal stems from, oh my God, so many different artists and takes, and turning it into this, beautiful anthem.
Yeah.
It's so it was just the coming together, and doing it. And oftentimes as artists, especially in dance music, we're working alone, we're traveling, we're not often in situations where we're getting to be together.
Yeah.
So it was also this incredible opportunity to bring, colleagues who never see each other, who all work in this industry in the same sort of space, but never are in the same space together, see each other. It was a beautiful day, and you could just feel the vibration of it, resonating, and all of us left feeling like, yeah, actually, maybe in our own way, we can make a difference, just maybe we don't have the money to send, or we can't, maybe, we don't have a hose big enough to try to put the fires out from London.
Yeah.
But we can do what we can do. And one thing we can do is sing, and make a song, which, we are all the revenue, or any streaming, or any revenue that's generated through streaming or downloads, goes directly to the Change Reactions Direct Wildfire Giving Fund. This is an incredible organization in Los Angeles that helps empower people who are on the front lines, helping the people directly. It's a very unique foundation that approaches philanthropy and charity in a very fresh, different way. And so, so we hope that it will, generate money, and of course, because this is going to be a long road of recovery. Yeah. But even more so, just the message of it, to the world in general, because I'm sure you can agree that there are people all over the world that need the message to keep on rising.
That part. It's such a really beautiful, uplifting message, because I think in such a world of like uncertainty with everything that's going on, just everything around us is just so chaotic. Yeah. You need something to kind of uplift and get you out of that, that depressing state. And so thank you so much for, using your gifts and, your talents, and bringing these people together for such a time as this. When I think about it, like music and media and where we're going with it, it's so hard to hear good music today, positive music. Everything is just sounds the same. So it's amazing that you can still make good music today. Like, I don't know, music now is completely different than what it used to be.
I love that. I agree. I mean, of course there's good music being made. But yeah, of course, it has changed because of the technology. A lot more people have access to be able to make music, which is a great thing. Yeah. But you also then get inundated with a lot of things that are perhaps not, maybe not the best quality. Everybody's got different tastes. But yeah, I think the idea of making music that is really for the purpose of uplifting people, that is, and not not religious, but it is spiritual in a sense, because music is a vibration, and I think what's happening in the world at the moment feels like the world is just it is vibrating on a very low frequency, and the more that happens, the more people get sucked down into that low vibration. And even people who are high vibration people, it's very easy, it's like, to stare into the darkness and then get fixated and then get sucked into it, And so it's like, what can we do to keep, what can any of us do, and that's why I've kind of switched a lot of the news off. I thought, what, if I can do anything, it's just try to change the small world around me. Okay, yeah, I'm an artist. I have some people that, like maybe just by being a better person, maybe just by smiling in the shop when I buy something. I don't know. There's little things where you can be effective. All of us have the potential to be effective in a way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just gotta think, okay, I can't necessarily address the bigger picture, but every day I wake up, I'm here and I can make a difference in some capacity in someone's life. And music definitely has the power. Music is quite magical in that way. Crosses borders, doesn't need a passport. It transcends language and, politics and everything. It's like, it's quite unique. Can't think of anything else that has that power. Mm-hmm. So, can't underestimate it to be a potential really strong weapon in the fight for the light.
Exactly. I love that. Do you embrace, It's so funny because this is a big, huge topic that a lot of artists talk about, the whole AI thing. And some people are like not embracing it. Some people are embracing it. But I'm just like, hey, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. But I feel like there's a big concern of like, AI being better than humans. And potentially people are not having jobs in the future. How do you feel about music and artistry mixed with AI?
It's a very good question. Very topical question. And, I remember back to 1927 when I was just starting out. No, but, it was really around the time, just maybe a few years into the beginning of my own career that things really changed drastically in the music business. Things were going digital.
Yeah.
So, and then over the course of those next years, I mean, the bottom fell out of the industry in a way for artists because people that had been used to, you made a lot more money when you were selling records, or CDs. There was an actual physical product. Suddenly, people were able to get your music for free. They could stream it. They could find places to get it downloaded for free. And, the industry was in a very similar place, especially in the artists who were all freaking out. People were, trying to fight it and, kind of trying to resist it. And I remember at the time thinking, this is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. Embrace it. So instead of like trying to sell my CDs, I just started giving them away free at shows, just to sort of try to build up my presence online, maybe connect more with my fans. Because I knew that ultimately I wasn't going to be able to generate an income from royalties any longer. And that's absolutely true. It's hilarious when I get royalty statements. You get these long royalty statements, and then at the end of it, you're like, oh, it's 37 cents. Wow. Thank you for that. Yeah. How many streams did it take to get? It's really shocking. But, I shifted it, and I thought there's no point fighting it. And I think it's the same with AI. It's not going anywhere. And I think, of course look, I mean, the truth is we did something, I didn't really understand. I'm trying to learn how AI works, trying to teach myself a little bit, especially with like video and stuff. It's very interesting. Yeah. And we recently took a record that we love, and we thought, right, we want to hear, like, we put it through AI, and it was like, it's a record that we all absolutely just love. We've loved for many years. It's like, and we said, look, we want this record, but in a different way, just like, just to see what it could do. And it took the record and kind of reconfigured it. So different melody. Wow. I mean, completely different melody, same lyrics, same structure, but actually it was quite amazing. I mean, because it did things melodically that I just wouldn't have thought, I really wouldn't have ever thought to do, but I loved it. I actually loved it. And so I thought, okay, it can be used as a tool, that for inspiration. And I think it's just about, recognizing whatever, they say that, machines will never replace humans. I do think to some degree, I mean, at a time when everything feels, there's a lot of inauthenticity. There's a lot of superficial kind of, stuff. And then we no longer feel like we can trust what we're reading, or we can't trust what we're seeing online. And I think it's more important than ever to then really try to tap into your own authenticity, build that relationship with your fans, even stronger, maybe, whatever it is that you're bringing as an artist, that is personal, that is very much you. I think, you've just got to you got to just really, really lean into that, because that's the thing that can't be replaced. Yeah. Yes. The vocal, there was a vocal on it. The vocal sounded, I don't know. It did sound non-human, but I kind of liked it, It was like, so, but I do think we have to embrace it. Try to figure out how you can use these tools in a creative way. We're at the early stages of it. another
sure.
10 years, 15 years, it may be another story. I don't know. But yeah,
Right.
as my mother always said, don't borrow trouble, just deal with what you got to deal with today. And today it's a tool that if you get a little bit of a handle on, you can probably work to your advantage.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I have a fun question, and I love asking every guest this, and there is no wrong answer.
Okay.
But the 3 levels of influence: money, power, and respect. And if you could choose only one of those things, which one would you choose and why?
Wow. Money, it definitely wouldn't be money. Power and respect. It's a tough one. I mean, I would be inclined to say respect, but without power, do you have any? At the moment, we're seeing how power is. Are you allowed to still be respectable if you have this power? Yeah. I think the responsible answer would have to be power, because then, and you can have power in all kinds of ways.
Exactly.
But I think to just have respect almost feels a little bit selfish and a little bit egotistical, whereas power is a responsibility that, and with that comes the opportunity to really make a difference. I see it all the time. I watch what's happening and I just think, oh my God, I wish I had a bigger voice. I wish I had more power. I can do what I can do, but I probably don't have the mechanisms that you need to really maybe secure that kind of power, because it seems to require some pretty unfortunate characteristics, and I don't know, but I would love to be able to have more power and to really to send even more of a message out that we are all brothers and sisters. We are all, part of this incredible miracle that really I think about every day. Just like, what? How are we here, and what are we? It's crazy. I mean, if you really, really think about it, how small our time is here. When you think about the vast history of humanity, and we make everything feel so important, and we make ourselves think that everything is so important. And the truth is, we're just here for this brief little time. And we have this opportunity to have this extraordinary, beautiful experience, but people seemed hell-bent on making it anything but, a beautiful experience. And it does feel sometimes like hate is winning. And, but it's not. It's not. It's not. And I always say this, it's like, the light will always win, because darkness doesn't really exist. It's just the absence of light. And as soon as you strike a match in a very dark room, the darkness is no longer there. And I just think, so it's really about just shining the light even brighter, and reminding yourself that the darkness can never really win as long as you are shining. Yeah. And we just have to shine brighter.
That's beautiful. Beautifully said. Do you feel like, with just in the entertainment business overall, and, I'm sure you've seen a lot of different things. Do you feel like it's changing as far as like the music industry is changing for the better in favor of the artist? Like artists are getting their, I guess, you hear about the stories of Angie Stone and, Michael Jackson. You get all these countless of artists talking about the same thing. And do you think that things are actually changing now, that people are speaking out more about like just that?
What do you mean?
Like just, I think
I mean, there's the mental health kind of aspect of it. Then there's the financial kind of aspect of it. I mean,
yeah, the financial, I would say, because I think a lot of people get into this business thinking that, they're going to get a Grammy right away, and they're going to be, or even in the acting, they're like, oh, I'm going to get an Oscar. I'm like, well, there's tiers to get there, but it's very possible.
And there's also ways to have a career that, it's also about perhaps adjusting your definition of what success means.
Exactly.
A lot of people have this idea that unless you are winning a Grammy or, you have a kind of platinum selling album or whatever, that, you can't have a successful career. The truth is, acting or music, whatever, these creative careers have got all kinds of tiers, and there are lots and lots of people, a lot more than the ones that are making it to that sort of level where, that's that sort of top, tier artist who's, making the kind of money where they can have their own yachts and mansions and their household names. But then there's all the other artists that are actually sustaining careers, doing what they love, maybe traveling the world and doing smaller gigs, but they're able to make a living doing, playing music or singing or performing in, theatrical productions somewhere, but they're not Meryl Streep, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, there's a lot. I don't really think it's, no, unfortunately, I don't think that it's, going in the right direction. I think, I think the amount of money that the labels and the streaming platforms are taking compared to what's actually trickling down to the artists is criminal. It is.
Yeah.
I don't spend my time banging on about it because, I don't want to get wrapped up in the negative, but the truth is, it's very hard to make money for, you really, and yes, they're always saying, I think Spotify recently came out and said, oh, they're going to be doing this, doing that. And I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done to shift that back in the favor of the artists. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, people aren't aware of it really. I mean, if you're not working in music, they can't believe it. When I show people my royalty statements and they see all these streams in the countries where they've been, and they see these numbers, and then they see, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
They don't know. They don't understand that. So, wherever possible, if you have an artist that you love and maybe they're not, a super famous person, maybe buy their record,
exactly.
Just knock your, what do you spend on a coffee?
Yeah, exactly.
$6-7 to buy a Starbucks coffee that you enjoy for all of like 5 minutes. But this is a record that somebody spent thousands to make and many, many months or years to create. Maybe it's worth the $9.99 off of iTunes. You know what I mean? It's like,
I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't really understand that's how it works. Like, I was telling someone, as a filmmaker myself, and I went to film school, and, I shoot a lot of movies and did music videos and all the things. And then I got into the streaming thing, doing that world. And the best way, honestly, for artists that are smaller is that people who follow them will buy their stuff.
Yeah. And it's almost just unheard of, it's like people just don't even think like, oh, buy an album?
Yeah. Like you're going to spend Jordan shoes. You're going to buy Michael Jordan shoes, for, a certain amount of money. You're going to do, pay for that. And then you could just support an artist who might not be as famous, but, it's support, No, but this was, that's it's so real what you said, everything you said, absolutely real. If you could go on a coffee date with any artist, living or dead, who would it be, and what would you ask them on this coffee date?
Yeah. Wow. That's a tough one. God, there are so many. Probably Andrew.
Ooh, nice.
I think if I could, I would. Maya for me was Maya Angelou was somebody who she was really like she was just this fully formed kind of almost supremely kind of extraordinary human who had this wisdom that was so just from this place of like absolute, that she was authenticity. I mean, like that was the definition for me of authenticity. It was like, that woman. I mean, I still go on videos of things that she taught, just not just through her books or through her, but like, things that she just said, her poetry, of course, but that really informed my life, that really changed my life, that helped me, when my mother died last year, and Maya has a video talking about her own death and how she needed to give her permission to go. I don't think I would ever thought about that had I not seen that message from her, but I had watched it many times. And so when it came to that point, there was a point at which it was also what my mother needed, and I just thought, what would I ask Maya? I don't know. I probably just more than anything want to just say thank you. Somebody whose work and whose spirit affected my life in so many positive ways. From the first time I read, my very first book by Maya, all the way through my life, my career. I released a record, which is a kind of was a house version of I'll Rise, which was a song based on the poem And Still I Rise. And that's been a huge part of my career over the years. And just, getting to sing her words all over the world to people who didn't even know who Maya Angelou was, getting to hear the power in those beautiful poetic words. She really made a big impact. So
I love that.
What would I ask her? I would just probably want to sit in her presence and be like, thank you. Maybe I would ask her, maybe I would ask her, what do you think the best way to be effective today in this current climate with everything going on? I'd want to know what she had to say on what's going on. Because if anybody would have some good advice in Maya.
That's beautiful. That's a great one. Great answer. What advice would you give to someone that wants to get into the music world?
Don't do it. No, I'd say, well, first of all, if you're going to go that road, you really have to love it. I mean, don't go into it because it's going to make you famous, or if you do anything with those intentions, it's like, I don't know. It's you've got to go into it knowing it's a tough road. It's not an easy, it's not an easy one. People want to be a DJ now, but not because they love the music, because they love the idea of this sort of superstar life. And same goes for music. I was on X Factor in the UK back in 2016, and I just remember because I'd already had a career, that it wasn't like a crossover, commercial career. So I still had a lot further I could go, but I'd had a career that I knew I could continue, and that changed everything for me in a way, because I wasn't there thinking this was my only shot. But everybody else was very much of the mindset that this was their only option. And if it didn't work out, they were going to be working the till at a supermarket in their little town for the rest of their lives. It was like, and I was just like thinking, Simon Cowell is not the only way to make a career for yourself. This is a platform. it may just end up being a platform that you use to get to the next little level, or it may do nothing, but it's unlikely going to be the golden ticket that's going to change your whole life. You're the golden ticket. What you just got to do is, you got to be invested, and you got to have the right reasons. You got to have the right motives. And if you're committed to the craft, you're committed to the mission, and you, because even if you're not super talented, if you put the time in, the truth is we can all get better at something, and and build and sculpt that talent into something. But you just gotta really want it.
Yeah.
You gotta really want it, and be tenacious, because if you get knocked back, you gotta just get back up and be like, okay, I'm gonna keep on going. I'm going to keep on rising.
Absolutely. I love that. That's great advice. Where can people find you on social media to follow everything you have going on?
Well, the easiest thing would probably be, well, for me personally, would be a Linktree, because it's, it's a link to then all your platforms. So it's a nice way to just give, so it's Linktree, was it .com/, Peyton Music, I think. And that's PEY2. And then, but the Revival House Project is also linked. It's linktree.com/whatever, Revival House Project.
Nice.
Yeah. And we're doing, amazing, productions, all just really uplifting house, taking old classic records and totally reworking them with real musicians and real artists, incredible vocalists, and just bringing back to life some songs that, perhaps this new generation don't even know, or, and just reworking them for the dance floor, and just trying to put out quality music that has the potential to make an impact, not only in just some social way, but just, dancing is a vibration too. It's a very powerful one. Well, if you can keep everybody dancing, whether it's in their kitchen or in their minds, or, or on a dance floor, there's power in that,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much. This was a pleasure. It was so good talking to you.
Thank you. It was great talking to you, and good luck on your next adventure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I
really, it's very, very exciting. And I'm honored to have been here for the last interview.
Thank you. Same, honored. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.